And then the floating dress with red stains on it was never seen again.
Wait, so were the stains blood or ketchup?
We will never know.
Probably ketchup. Okay, my turn.
Ooh, this ought to be interesting.
What does that mean?
You're great at a lot of things, Chester, but scary stories are not one of those things.
Oh, yeah? Well, I got a story about plagues. Plagues that took over a country. Are we talking about the plagues happening now, or? This is the story of the plagues of Egypt. A long, long time ago, the Egyptians held the Israelites as slaves for generations. All of that changed when a man named Moses, who had been raised by Egyptian royalty, discovered his true heritage and ran off into the wilderness. Years later, he returned with the sole purpose of freeing his people, the Israelites. Every day, Moses would approach the Pharaoh of Egypt, asking for him to let his people go. But every time, Pharaoh would say no. And when Pharaoh said no, Egypt would get a horrible plague. Darkness, even in the daytime. I think scientists call that an eclipse. Dead fish in the River Nile, the life source of Egyptian society. Uncontrollable biting insects, fire, hail. Wait a moment, isn't this just a Bible story? Prince of Egypt depicted this much better. Yeah, and it's scary stuff because it all happened. How do we know that all this happened?
You proved one of the plagues by bringing up an eclipse, Lucy.
Oh, I guess I did. That would be pretty freaky during a time when people assumed it was the gods doing things.
Well, God was doing things for sure.
But see, I never understood that. Why does Pharaoh keep saying no? Wouldn't he want to end his suffering?
Well, have you ever tried to talk to someone that saw things in a way you didn't agree?
Yeah, like when I told Lucy I was a fruit bat. She was convinced I was a vampire bat. You have pointy teeth! Only vampire bats have pointy... Oh, I see your point now. I am the stubborn one.
Pharaoh saw the plagues happening, but he was still stuck in his own ways. He wasn't convinced that the plagues and the actions of Moses and God were causing the situation. And so the plagues kept happening.
Is that why Chester's imagining me as the Pharaoh in the story? Hey, I wasn't done yet. Are you guys gonna let me finish or what? As I was saying, the plagues were horrible, wretched, but Pharaoh still would not let the Israelites go. And so it came to the final, most terrifying plague. The firstborns in every household would die.
But wouldn't the firstborn of the Israelites be killed then too?
Nope. God instructed the Israelites to paint their doorways with red. Red for blood or red from ketchup? They didn't have ketchup in Egypt. So, the Israelites decorated their doors with red, and death passed them over. Their babies were safe, but the firstborns of Egyptian households were killed overnight. Even Pharaoh lost his own son to death. This is what finally broke Pharaoh, and with a heavy heart, he agreed to let the Israelites go. This event is now known as Passover, a time to remember when death passed over the Israelites and got their freedom from the Egyptians. It's a very important Jewish holiday. That is creepy and very sad for the Egyptians. But I thought this was supposed to be a scary story. Well, it is, because as the Israelites left Egypt, Pharaoh realizes exactly what he had done, and he didn't like it. He went back on his word and sent his army to recapture the Israelites and make them into slaves again. The Israelites ran, but the Egyptians were right behind them. Suddenly, they reached a dead end at the Red Sea. There was no way to get everyone across before the Egyptians would catch them. And then...
Yes, Then what? Yeah, then what?
Moses lifted his staff. The mighty power of God worked through Moses, and as he struck the staff to the ground, the Red Sea parted in two. The Israelites were able to go safely across, and finally, they were free.
That had a happy ending. Where's the scary part?
When the Egyptians chased after the Israelites, the Red Sea flooded with water again, drowning the army that chased them into the sea. Pharaoh's hatred and stubbornness led to the end of the Israelites' slavery.
Wow. I can see why that story is one told in lots of different movies. The story of Moses is a powerful one. You can really experience what it's like when you work with God and when you work against Him. God might not come to us today in the form of a burning bush with a message to free a whole group of people from slavery, but He might call you to help with smaller things.
It might not feel as grand or epic, but we all have a purpose through God, whether it's big or small.
That's very interesting and all, but we're supposed to be sharing our scariest story, not our favorite Bible story. Well, I thought some parts were a bit scary.
Fine, what's your story, Lucy?
Finally! So our story begins. On the wild ocean waves. The eye holes!
Aha! So this is where all of you were. Nice try, but you can't escape Bath Day forever. Now who's going first?
Ah!